Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be doing a cycles review for Ikoria. We're going to be talking about the best and worst cycles from Ikoria. If you don't know what a cycle is, it's basically a set or a couple similar cards in different colors. So let's use Kaladesh for example. They had a Gear Hulk cycle where in each monocolored they had a giant artifact creature that was named a Gear Hulk. So that is an example of a cycle. You can go look up any of these cycles or the Gear Hulk cycle if you need any more reference. But let's just get straight into it. So the first cycle I want to talk about is the ultimatums. Now, in Ikoria, they're doing the other half of the ultimatum cycle. They already did the first half in the first 5 cards, and now they're doing the other 5. If you don't know, a ultimatum is basically a 7-mana spell that has all colored symbols. No colorless mana can be used to cast it, and it's 3 colors. And so in this case, they're using the colors from Tarkir. They have Tumor, they have Sultai, Abzan, Mardu, and Jeskai. And we're going to be taking a look at all of these cards and seeing which ones are good and which ones are not for Commander. So the first one I want to talk about is the Inspiring Ultimatum. This one's by far the weakest. It basically says deal 5 damage to a creature, you gain 5 life, and you get to draw 5 cards. So drain for 5 and draw 5. For 7 mana, in general, dealing 5, gaining 5, and drawing a card. We don't even care about the life gain usually. Jeskai usually doesn't really need life gain all that much. So that aside, we get to kill something, and we get to draw 5 cards. Now for 7 mana, this is a great deal usually. But with all the colored symbols, we have to pay a very specific mana cost. It's going to be hard to cast this spell. And for an ultimatum, it just seems weak and its design is just not very good. So that is why, that's the worst in my opinion. Now, the other ones, they seem a lot more powerful than this. We have the Ruinous Ultimatum, which says each, board wipe, but for each of your opponents except for you, destroy all non-land permanent. So it's a very strong board wipe. Definitely a good ultimatum. We have Genesis Ultimatum. Lets you look at the top 5 cards of your library and put any permanents from there onto the battlefield. So, this is something that Tumor does a lot. Genesis is in the name, so obviously we're going to be grabbing something from our deck. Perfect card design. I wish it went through the top 6 or 8 even, just because the top 5 is not going to get you a lot of options. But with a well-built deck, some top deck tutors, a scroll rack, you can really make this card really good. Eerie Ultimatum. It states that you may return any number of permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield as long as they have different names. Different names thing is not important for Commander because we're already playing no duplicates. You just have to have a Hermit Druid or somebody to fill up your graveyard. You do that and you play this card for a lot of value. Get out your combo pieces, get out just a large board. Decks like Carador love this card. It's going to be an auto-include. And the final one is Emergent Ultimatum. So this ultimatum states that you can go search your deck for any 3 different monocolored cards. So they have to be monocolored, which is a restriction. The other restriction is they have to have different names, but we don't care. We're already playing no duplicates. You go grab those 3. Your opponent can choose 1 to shuffle back into your deck, and you get to cast the other 2 for free. So for its mana cost, it's pretty good. You have to have the colored mana, obviously, so maybe build your deck around that. Maybe you're playing Ultimatum Tribal. I think that'd be a super fun deck for Commander. This card is probably the best of them because it lets you tutor for the cards and cast them for free, so it's better than the Genesis Ultimatum. It's better at comboing off because you can go search for the right cards. And even your opponent getting to choose one is usually not a downside because you still get the other 2. You just have to build your deck the right way and always have 3 options you can tutor for. So very nice card. Cheating things into play is not something Sultai does very often, so this is a very cool card. The next cycle we have is the Apex cycle. The Apexes are 3-colored legendary creatures with Mutate. So you have Luna, Apex of Wishes, which states that whenever she mutates, you get to go through the top cards of your library until you get a permanent card, and you can put that in the battlefield or in your hand. In a mutate deck, this card just shines. It can go just grab a ton of good stuff. The more you mutate it. But if you're playing this without mutate, you're just going to be mutating it once. Give a creature Frample in the 6/6, and then whatever body the other creature had probably, and you go and mutate for whatever good card you can. Especially in Commander, this is a very good effect, putting a threat on the table, going to grab something. As a Commander, you can play it for its mutate cost, so very nice indeed. Almost all of these are very good. Vodrax, for example, is a good spell slinger. He likes cheap spells and can get them back whenever you mutate. The worst is probably Snapadex. He's the Mardu one, and he says whenever you mutate, he does 4 damage to target creature, you gain 4 life, and he has double strike. So he can make a creature have double strike, and he has that mutate effect. Probably the weakest one because he doesn't outright kill anything. He doesn't get you a lot of value. 4 damage for a mutate creature compared to Luna, which gets you anything. Although it's more reliable than Luna, it's still, worse than other cards like Vodrax. I can see where the balance and the ideas for this card are coming from, but I think he's the weakest one. So, with that said, let's move on to companions. The companion cycle is filled with they have a different companion for every 2-color combination now instead of the 3 colors, and they also have a 5-color companion. All companions state that inside your deck, you have to have met a requirement in order to be able to play this card from your hand. It starts in the companion zone, and you get to put it into your hand once you've met the requirement. So very interesting deck requirements. Standard, there's a lot of decks going around that use these cards to the max of their ability, and I think a commander, either as the commander or as a companion to another good commander, these cards can actually have a lot of power. A lot of these cards don't make sense as companions, however, because they force your deck into a restriction that makes the deck weaker, and you can only cast them once. They don't go back to the companion zone, they go to the graveyard, unlike your commander. So unless you're playing it as your commander, you're not going to be able to reuse that effect, and it's just going to be very weak. Although having it alongside a commander is actually going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm going to try a couple decks and see how they work out. And so, companion, a very interesting ability and a really fun cycle for sure. You get to play them in any 2-color combination, which makes for a lot of fun deck building. All of them have hybrid costs, which means you can play them in either or if you're playing in standard, not commander. In commander, you have to have both colors, so if it's a Simic hybrid, you have to play it in a Simic deck, not a mono blue or mono green. Very good, lots of good deck, lots of good brews out there, so definitely a fun cycle. The next cycle I'm going to call it Rocks and Lands. It's the Crystal and the Triome for each 3-color pair. So you have a Crystal, which is a 3-mana rock that taps for any of the 3 colors that you are in. So if it's Mardu, it is the Savai Crystal, and it taps for Mardu, and you can pay 2 to cycle it. So this is probably strictly better. These cycle, at least, is strictly better than Monolith. Monolith can tap for any 1 color, any color you want, and it's 3 colorless. This card, having cycling and in Commander, is just strictly better. And the lands, all the Triomes are all 3 land types of their color. So the Mardu one, the Savai Triome, is a Mountain Plains Swamp. And it states it can tap for any of those colors, obviously, because it's all 3 land types, and it has cycling for 3 colorless. So having cycling makes it already better than just the general 3, the triple tap lanes. But being a Mountain Plains Swamp means that it can go be 2 to 4 with your fetch lands or your other cards that say you need a specific land type. So this, the cycle actually really opens up a lot of different ways now that you can build land bases, because having these and shock lands and fetch lands just means that budget decks are becoming cheaper because of these cards. 3 colors are easier to build. And being able to 2 to 4 means that it makes some of your other cards better, it makes fetch lands better, and it makes land bases easier. This cycle, I just love it. I love everything about it. The last cycle is the enchantment cycle, It doesn't seem very obvious, but there is a enchantment for each 3-color combination that does something really cool. Whirlwind of Thought, it's the Jeskai one. For 1 in a Jeskai, you have an enchantment that says whenever you cast an all-creature spell, draw a card. In Commander, this is insane. For Storm decks, for Spellslinger decks, this card is broken. I can't believe they made this card. The next one is Titan's Nest, which is 1 and a soul tie, and it states, at the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card, you may put that into your graveyard, and you can exile a card from your graveyard to add colorless. Can't use that on colorless spells or X cost spells. So, this card has got a lot of interesting things about it. I like the fact that it just has that on top of the other effect. It can mill yourself 1 each turn if you want. Very nice, and you know, it can stand alone and do what it needs to do very well. So I like that addition. But the bottom ability alone makes it pretty good. The top ability just makes it, you know, a staple in every deck. But the bottom ability is what makes this card so interesting. It states that you may exile any card from your graveyard, any card at all, and add a colorless mana. As long as you have cards in your graveyard, you are generating a ton of mana. Hermit Druid now generates so much mana. Even if it's colorless and can't be used to cast artifacts, you're still generating that mana, and that just is so interesting. Decks like any Sultai Graveyard decks, the Mimeoplasm, you know, you're going to have extra cards in your graveyard that don't need to be there. This just converts them into mana, which is so good. I think this should be in every Sultai Graveyard deck out there because of just how much utility it has. The next one is the Marty one. It's Offspring's Revenge. It lets you, at your combat at your turn, it lets you exile a red, white, or black creature from your graveyard, so no colorless. And if you create a token that's a 1/1 with haste that has the abilities of that card and it can attack, so you attack with it, you get the death trigger or the attack trigger of the card you exiled. Getting that free attack trigger with this card, even if it's just once, is insane. I wish it didn't say you had to exile that card. This card would kind of be broken without that, but I think it would actually not be nearly as broken as Whirlwind of Thought. I mean, come on. Really? And so I feel like that should have been the effect that this card had, but still very good for Mardu decks that want to be dumping cards in the graveyard or just happen to have creatures die. The last one I want to mention is Song of Creation. Song of Creation states it's 1 and a tumor. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever you play a spell, draw 2 cards, and at the end of your turn, discard a card. This reminds me of Recycle a lot, in the fact that like you don't have in hand, but if you draw a spell, you can cast it, and you just go off by keep casting spells. So this gives Tumor a spell casting, you know, enchantment. You know, it gives you a reason to play Storm, and it just is really something that Tumor doesn't do very often. It seems like a very green card and a very good addition. I like the design a lot, and it's very good. So that's it, guys. That's it for the Cycles of Ikoria. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and just let me know what you guys want the next video to be. See ya.